If you're listening to this later, do not assume it's complete. Treat it as a correction, not a confession. The earlier recording contained an error of sequence, and if you rely on it as is, you will repeat the same mistake I did. This is meant to amend that. Follow the order carefully. Do not improvise. I'm making this privately, and I'm not sending it anywhere. It's only so the next time I need to remember, the instructions are intact. First, when you notice the gap, don't mark it down yet. Don't label it. Just note the time and continue as if nothing is missing. The impulse to fill it is what causes the drift. I didn't do that last time. That's why I'm recording again. In the earlier file, I said the problem began with the notes. That wasn't accurate. The notes came later. What actually began it was the correction itself. The need to adjust a small discrepancy that didn't matter except that I noticed it. I keep logs for practical reasons. Dates, durations, door positions, appliance settings. Mundane things. The habit started after a minor incident I don't need to revisit here. The system worked because it was boring. No interpretation. Just confirmation. On the 7th entry of last month, there was a mismatch. 2 times overlapped by 11 minutes. I assumed I'd copied one incorrectly. I marked it with a dot, meaning verify later. That dot is where I went wrong. When I came back to verify, there was nothing to compare it to. The surrounding entries were intact, but the reference point I needed, the reason I'd left the room, wasn't there. Not erased, not smudged, simply absent, like it had never been written. I corrected the log by reconstructing the most likely sequence. That's what the first recording explains. It's a clean explanation, logical, but it assumes continuity, and that's the part I'm revising now. Second instruction. If something appears to have always been that way, don't trust it, especially if it feels familiar. After I amended the log, I noticed small efficiencies. I didn't have to check certain things anymore. I already knew they were fine. The door was locked without my checking it. The light was off when I reached the switch. This felt like progress, and I noted it as such. I shouldn't have. The purpose of these recordings is to maintain accuracy, not comfort. If you're listening to this later and thinking, "This sounds paranoid," that's fine. Paranoia still checks its work. What I stopped doing was checking. There's a point somewhere after the correction where I begin referencing things I don't remember learning. Not big things. Shortcuts. Habits. The order of items in a drawer I don't open often. The way a floorboard sounds when stepped on. I never wrote those down, but I speak about them with certainty. I reviewed the earlier audio twice before making this. That's how I caught it. There's a sentence, casual, almost filler, where I say, "I'll leave it there, like before." That phrase only makes sense if there was a before I was aware of at the time. There wasn't. Third instruction. If you hear yourself speak with confidence about an origin you can't locate, stop listening. Do not continue the playback hoping it will clarify itself. I didn't stop. I kept listening. I wanted to see how far it went. The strange thing is how practical it all sounds. No rambling, no fear, just adjustments, corrections to corrections. At one point, I advised myself to move an object closer to the sink because it saves time. I can picture the object. I can picture the sink. I can't remember ever owning it. When I went to check, the space was empty. Not recently emptied. Dust where it should have been. An outline faint enough that I only noticed it because I was looking for confirmation, not because something was missing. This is the part I'm most concerned about, so listen carefully. The absence didn't alarm me. I felt a brief satisfaction like a task already completed. That reaction is the problem. I made this new recording because the earlier one assumes I'm the one making the corrections. It assumes continuity of intent. I'm no longer certain that's true. There's a pattern to what gets adjusted. Inefficiencies, redundancies, pauses. The things that slow a routine down but don't seem important enough to protect. I never say why they're unnecessary. I just remove them, including, apparently, reminders of why they were there. Fourth instruction. Do not optimize unless you can explain, out loud, who benefits. I can't do that anymore. I tried leaving a deliberate inconsistency today. I put a note in the wrong place. I wanted to see if it would stay there. When I came back, it was gone. Not moved. Gone. And I had the distinct impression that I'd already decided it didn't belong. I checked the logs. There's an entry I don't remember making, noting the removal. It's written in my shorthand. The handwriting matches. The timing fits perfectly between two things I know I did. That's why this recording exists. To amend the assumption that I am the sole author of my corrections. If you're listening to this later, you might be tempted to look for the first recording. That's fine. But don't use it as a foundation. Treat it as an artifact, something shaped by a process that was already underway. Final instruction, and then I'm stopping. If this file feels unnecessary, if you find yourself thinking it's redundant or inefficient to keep, do not act on that thought immediately. Note it. Record the time. Leave everything where it is. If you're already past that point, then this amendment was made too late. I'm leaving the recorder here, like before.